Hey, Pretty Girl Club, welcome to another episode of Comment Foolery Exposed. In this episode, I'm going to talk about the foolery that I have seen on Reddit lately. So one critique that I've noticed I get for this channel from unambiguous black women is they say things like, oh, you act like there are no pretty black women. And the reason they're saying that, they don't realize it, but they're saying that because if you look at before my channel was on YouTube, the main talking points of black female content creators was all about not getting chosen by black men. I mean, even if you look at Cynthia G's channel, her whole entire channel was based on, hey, black men are not choosing us, black women, so let's look at who they really choose. And let's make fun of, you got the same black man. So a lot of the black female content creators who came before me, they centered their content around not being chosen by black men. They centered their content around divesting from black men due to not being chosen by them. A lot of them centered their content, even today, around hating their 4C hair, hating their skin, not having pretty privilege, and that sucks. By the way, that's one of the most viral female black content creators to this day. And so I believe that a lot of that content caused hundreds of thousands of black women to have inferiority complexes. And so then when my channel pops on the scene and I come from an opposite, perspective, or I talk about actually empowering things such as being pretty or loving yourself or leveling up, then people take it as, oh, because you're calling your audience the pretty girl club, that means you're saying other people are the ugly girls club. Meanwhile, right now at this moment, there's an unambiguous black woman who calls her followers the ugly girl club. Yeah. And so I think that a lot of women who get offended by me complimenting women of this community and saying that we are the pretty girl club, that is absolutely, undeniably an inferiority complex. Because if you believe that you're pretty, you wouldn't have a problem with a random YouTube video of someone you don't even know where they're calling their subscribers pretty. Like if I see a blonde white girl and she has a YouTube channel where she's calling other blonde girls pretty, or she calls her subscribers the pretty girl club, I see nothing wrong with that. I would not be offended by that whatsoever. But for a woman with an inferiority complex, oh, that's offensive. This girl says, feeling off after watching Exoticals United. So that's already a red flag right there. If the random YouTube channel of a stranger has the power to dysregulate your emotions, you need therapy. You actually need help, because I talk about this all the time. A lot of women who are easily rage baited and women who get easily angered or offended, these women do not know how to practice emotional control. So they're constantly emotionally dysregulated. All it takes is for me to call my subscribers the pretty girl club, and then boom, they're all mad, they're angry, they got a headache, they're in a bad mood, they're pissed off, they throw their earphones across the gym or something like that. So this is already a red flag right here. The first sentence, feeling off after watching Exoticals United. She says, I started watching her channel about a month ago. Okay, so this is another red flag. If you're feeling off, why would you continue to watch my channel for a month? Or was it after you watched it for a month, then you felt off? I mean, which one is it? Are you thoughtful about the content that you consume? She says, I started watching her channel a month ago and I used to enjoy her Pretty Privilege series. Okay, so you used to enjoy the Pretty Privilege series and now you're suddenly feeling off. Okay, let's continue. Even though I'm not mixed, I do consider myself a pretty girl. So then why would you feel off after watching my Pretty Privilege series for a month? If you consider yourself to also be pretty, you wouldn't feel off. You would feel relatable. You'd feel like, oh wow, this is very relatable to me. I have thousands of unambiguous black women as well as white women and Asian women in my comment section all the time saying that, hey, I'm not mixed, but I can relate to this. Oh my gosh, I love this. Oh wow, I love having the pretty girl experience. So if you're watching content about pretty girls for a month and then you feel off, what does that tell me about what you think of yourself? I will go ahead and let you answer that, but let's continue. She says, but I notice she makes it seem like being pretty is only something exclusive to mixed women. So now I'm starting to realize by this sentence right here that she has not watched all of my channel, because anybody who truly does watch my channel would know that I have thousands of monoracial exoticals on here, so much so to the point where I've even had biracials get mad at me because they didn't want me to include black women. So anybody who actually has been following this channel knows that I have included monoracial black women from the very beginning. Even if you look at Chrissy's screenshots of my avatar back in 2021, I had all kinds of monoracial women on my avatar. So it's never been only for mixed women. That's actually false, but let's continue. She says, over time, as I watched her channel more and more, I noticed how snarky she became when talking about unambiguous black women. Okay, so this has nothing to do with my talking points of my channel. You didn't offer any proof that I made it seem like only mixed women can be beautiful. Not to mention the fact that I called unambiguous women beautiful on my channel multiple times, but also I don't owe you a compliment in order to prove that I'm not colorist. That's another entitlement I've noticed. That's an entitlement mindset. If you don't compliment me, you're colorist. If you don't date me, you're racist. If you don't center me on your YouTube channel, you're racist. And also notice how her critique is, I have a snarky tone. Okay, so I've spoken with the same voice, or the same tone at least, the same snarkiness that I have. I've had that since the very beginning of this channel. So this actually sounds like an excuse. This sounds more like a cop-out reason as to why you don't like my content or why you're feeling off. I think the real reason you're feeling off is most likely due to some sort of inferiority complex, because if the shoe doesn't fit, then you're not going to be offended, right? Like if I talk about inferiority complexes and it doesn't relate to you, or if I talk about internalized colorism, texturism, and featureism, and you do not fit that, or if I talk about something negative that I see in the black community and you don't fit that negative stereotype, then you wouldn't have a problem. Only hit dogs holler, right? And also another thing that I've noticed is if you disagree with something a black woman says online, you're automatically a colorist. So like me disagreeing with Chrissy's talking points, oh, that means that I must be a colorist then. And then she reveals why she's really mad. It's because of the Storytime series. She says, her Storytime series makes it seem like all unambiguous black women are always jealous of mixed women, and she'll also use unflattering photos when mentioning us as well. So I've showed you guys these supposed unflattering photos that I've used of Tika Sumpter, Ari Lennox, Anoki. All of the photos and the women in the photos, in my opinion, are very pretty. They're very beautiful. I don't think there's anything unflattering about it. So I would love for this woman to pull up a screenshot of which photos of black women she feels are unflattering. Because the only photos that I tend to show are maybe black women in their natural state. I do show some glammed up photos of black women as well. By the way, have you ever noticed how being glammed up by definition to a black woman tends to mean you're wearing a wig and makeup? So I've also shown quote unquote glammed up photos because that's you guys' standard, or that's the standard you guys tried to hold me to. So no matter what photos I post to represent unambiguous black women on this channel, somebody's gonna get upset. And also, why would you be upset about those photos, and what's unflattering about them? Like, what makes you feel like those pictures are ugly, basically? Unflattering, let's look up the definition of the word unflattering. So I looked up some of the synonyms: unfavorable, uncomplimentary, harsh, unsympathetic, critical, attacking, hostile, disproving, scathing, biting, blunt, candid, honest, and stark. So please tell me which photos of black women fit those descriptions on my YouTube channel that I've used when mentioning you. Tell me which photos of Tika Sumpter are uncomplimentary, or Ari Lennox, or unfavorable. Because last time I checked, all of those unambiguous black women were pretty. But according to this person right here, the photos that I use of literal models and actresses and Grammy Award-winning artists such as Kelly Rowland, apparently all of those photos are unflattering. That's not good enough for this person. And it's making her feel off because of the Storytime series. And by the way, let's talk about the Storytime series. Not only do we talk about unambiguous black women in the Storytime series, but also, I've had women write in story times about white women, about Arab women. And so I've noticed that a lot of unambiguous women who have inferiority complexes or they're emotionally dysregulated, they ignore my hundreds of videos that have nothing to do with black women or nothing to do with exoticals. They ignore my hundreds of videos about other random stuff, and they hyper-focus on content that they believe is negative about themselves. And also, remember, if you don't fit into what I'm talking about, you wouldn't be upset, right? I mean, that's the argument people tried to give me about Chrissy's channel when she was roasting. Like, I remember she roasted one girl for having type 4 hair. They were like, oh, you wouldn't be offended if you're not who she's talking about, right? And I mean, technically, she's correct. I'm not offended because I actually want her to repost those videos where she was roasting mixed race or lighter skinned women, because I would love to enjoy those videos once again. And so why are you feeling off because light-skinned women or dark-skinned exoticals or mixed-race women, they have stories that are different than yours? When it comes to the Storytime series, I can't control the stories of other people. So what you're really saying is you're mad that unambiguous black women have treated mixed race women badly. And you're mad that I am finally telling the stories of thousands of women. By the way, I am editing more Storytime videos this week, so be sure to write in your story to exoticalsunited@gmail.com. She says, after discovering Chrissy's recent videos calling her out, it now paints a clearer picture. She tries so hard to make it seem like she's on our side, but the way she talks about us doesn't seem like it. Well, that's because I'm not on your side. Discarded apathy. I'm 100% not on your side. I have said multiple times who my core audience is. I will always remain loyal and center my core audience. That doesn't mean that my content won't be relatable to other people, because at this point, we've got tens of thousands of women on this channel of all different races who can relate to the decentering men content. They relate to my pretty privilege content. They relate to the social climbing content. So, but as far as who I'm loyal to, meaning whose stories I'm going to tell the most, what perspectives I'm going to speak from the most, who I'm going to allow a safe space the most in my comment section, it will always be who this platform was exclusively created for. This platform was created for the women who do not relate to content like Chrissy's, or, they don't really relate to content that you would have seen on maybe like Cynthia G's channel or somebody like that, because we don't have traumas associated with our skin tones or our hair textures or, our facial features. And if we did have traumas associated with those things, we have either overcome them or we are working on overcoming them. So that's why we talk about the things we talk about over here. And so you're absolutely correct. I'm not on your side because I did not create my channel to center divested. This isn't a divested Reddit. I did not create my channel to center divested, unambiguous black women. And so if that means that I'm not on your side, that means that you only want to watch content from divested, unambiguous black women, which is fine. But you should have known that when you first clicked on my channel, because it's all over my banner who my core audience is. I've made videos about who my core audience is. So this is actually your fault for not doing your due diligence and researching whatever you're following or watching, if it's that important to you to only watch divested, unambiguous black women. What happens is, let's be 100% honest here, I create excellent content, okay? So if that sounds cocky, then that's cocky. The Exoticals as a whole, like this whole entire niche, every channel I've ever watched who has talked about these topics, they all create phenomenal content. This channel creates a variety of content that a lot of the black empowerment content creators cannot create. They're not good at it. They're not as good or as talented at, speaking for 90 minutes only about social climbing, or speaking for 45 minutes about social climbing and then telling you exactly how to do it step by step so that you can do it tomorrow at the grocery store, giving practical tips and actual solutions to internalize colorism, texturism, and featureism. And so the bottom line is that whether you're a divested, unambiguous woman or not, my content still provides value that cannot be denied. And I noticed that you acknowledged this in your first sentence by saying that you enjoyed my Pretty Privilege series. So my question is, why weren't black women creating Pretty Privilege content until after I started creating it? And by the way, I'm not saying that it didn't exist before, because I don't know all of the content that unambiguous women were creating, but I definitely noticed a rise in unambiguous women formatting their channels and formatting their series based off of the Exotical channels. I noticed that after we started creating channels speaking from our perspective, which is a quote-unquote privileged perspective in the eyes of other people. So the real question you should be asking is, why weren't black women creating content about the pretty privilege experience, what it's like being the beauty standard, how to deal with people who are jealous of you being the beauty standard, how to social climb as the beauty standard? Why weren't there women talking about that? Because even Pink Pill and all of these other divested women who they seem to support the concept of pretty privilege, why wasn't Pink Pill offering solutions to internalize colorism, texturism, featureism, or talking about how to expand your pretty privilege, how to grow your pretty privilege, how to social climb? A lot of these women have been on YouTube far longer than I have. And so if they truly are better content creators, then you should have plenty of divested, unambiguous black women who talk about pretty privilege. You don't need my series, right? You don't need any of my content because their content is so great, right? She says she tries so hard to make it seem like she's on our side, but the way she does it doesn't seem like it. And also, how am I trying hard to make it seem like I'm on your side? Because the last time I checked, I'm actually very blunt. I actually don't really care what people think of me. If you want to talk about somebody who tries so hard to make it seem like she's on your side, that would be the content creator who recently made a community post trying to bash me after her unambiguous followers came for her and ate her up in the comment section. That's somebody who is trying so hard to make it seem like she's on your side after openly admitting that she watches my content and takes value from it. And then after she got ate up by her own subscribers, then she tried to backtrack and say, oh no, actually, I don't like Exoticals United and what she says. I actually like Chrissy, as a way to try to pander to her subscribers who had already left. And so the thing about content creation is that if you don't have a backbone, trust me, you're never going to be able to build a solid community. And so you have to take a stance regardless. And there are some unambiguous black women who only want to watch unambiguous black women, and they want to have their echo chambers and whatever. And that's totally fine. I mean, we have our own pretty girl echo chamber over here. We have an exotical echo chamber. We have a pretty girl echo chamber. We've got our decentering men echo chamber. We have a social climbing echo chamber over here. We've got a pretty privilege echo chamber. So if you would rather have an unambiguous black woman's divestment echo chamber, why did you leave that community? Why are you coming over here? This person says, my advice to you would be to stop giving your attention to media that does not make you feel good or have your best interest at heart. Attention is currency to content creators. Yeah, that's true, because now I'm making a video off of it. Exotical tags. But have you guys noticed how, like, what this girl said in the beginning was the reason she's upset is literally because of my Storytime series. So she's upset that Exoticals are literally telling their stories on my channel because she thinks that it's making them look jealous. So you're mad that these women happen to have these negative experiences? Like, are you serious right now? You're mad that somebody has the opposite experience of you. That's what it is. And then you're mad that I have a quote-unquote snarky tone. If you think I have a snarky tone, try listening to some of the divestment channels or some of the other black women's quote-unquote empowerment channels. So I have a snarky tone, but other content creators who happen to be in black spaces, they don't have any snarky tones. Literally in the divestment movement, they call people bullet bags, gorillas, apes, and bandits. But I have a snarky tone. And then this girl says, yeah, I just recently dropped all of her content. I never even knew mixed and exotical channels like her were super snarky AF. That's actually a lie because I have 600 videos. You're telling me that after a month, it took you 30 days to realize that I have a snarky tone? No, it didn't. I have a snarky tone in all of my videos. So you're actually being disingenuous. The real reason you left, it sounds like, is because of the Storytime series. You don't like hearing Exoticals stories. That's what it is. You don't like hearing their stories, but we sat for 10 and 15 years and listened to unambiguous women's colorism stories. We sat and watched Dark Girls documentary where women talked about how the guys didn't ask them to prom. You know, I watched Stefko's video where she said she didn't have pretty privilege and that sucks. I watched the entire YouTube channels of women like Cynthia G or Chrissy where they talked about how black men didn't choose them and who the black men really chose and who are the preferences or the quote-unquote exoticals. So we listened to your stories for the last 15 years on social media, but suddenly discarded apathy is ticked off because after a month of watching the Exotical channel, she's tired of hearing these exotical stories. She's tired of hearing the stories of dark-skinned exoticals, light-skinned black women, mixed-race black women. Oh no, she doesn't want to hear any of that because it's making them look bad. And this is actually another flaw that I've noticed when it comes to a lot of black women with this mindset. It's this extreme cult-like groupthink mindset to where they're so overly attached to random black women that they don't even know, to the point where they think that I'm like, you know, I'm making all of them look bad or whatever. Or like the black women, if one black woman is jealous, then it makes them all look jealous. And it's like, well, I would hope that you don't stereotype blackness so easily, because I'm not stereotyping the blackness on this channel. Like I've talked about Miss Refrigerator. We've talked about Arab women in the Storytime series. Literally everybody, fellow exoticals. But I've noticed that for a lot of them, they can't handle any criticism whatsoever because they don't have a response. That's really what it is. That's why they can't handle criticism. It's because they don't have a rebuttal for the criticism. This person says the name says it all, though. We know what the term exotical is used for, and anyone who refers to themselves as such is definitely black male identified, and those types are always anti-black women. So let's talk about the black male identified thing, because who came up with the terminology exotical? Oh, that's right, black women. And then she says, those types are always anti-black woman. So what does it mean to be anti-black woman? Does it mean telling story times? Because that's what this girl just posted about. She said, I have a snarky tone and I posted exotical story times, and that's why she's mad. So having a snarky tone and posting story times of like mixed race women or whatever, that is anti-black woman. So we're not allowed to tell stories because if you tell your life story, you're being anti-black. Do you see how they're hiding behind anti-blackness when they had no proof, no timestamp, nothing to show actual anti-blackness about the story times? She says anything with the name exotical should be a red flag to black women. Mixed women are not black women. Their content is not for you. So once again, she's given the talking point that black women can't be exoticals. You know, if you're watching it and you're black, you're too black to be in exoticals. So literally they're doing the exact same tactic of dividing and conquering. And then this person says the obvious isn't so obvious to everyone. This person says, block the channel and don't give her more attention. Her space is for mixed women, not black women. I was at the gym listening to Exoticals Unite. Oh my God. Wait, so you just said you told her to block my channel and don't give me more attention because my space is not for black women, but you as a black woman, you just admitted that you were at the gym listening to my content, while simultaneously warning somebody else not to watch my content. It's so funny because I've noticed that the exotical channels, it's almost like we're this guilty pleasure for a lot of like unambiguous, quote unquote, pro-black women. And this is why I laugh whenever somebody tries to critique my space, or even when they try to critique the other content creator, the black content creator who watches my channel, trying to say, you shouldn't watch her, she's sinister, she's an evil person. Most of the people who are saying that, they secretly watch my channel. The only difference is, what, they don't subscribe to my channel? I don't get paid off subscribers anyway. I get paid off of views. And so this girl, Bubbly Stick, she literally tells her to block the channel, but then she accidentally let it slip that she listens to my channel at the gym. She says, block the channel and don't give her more attention because her space is for mixed women, not black women. I was at the gym listening to Exoticals United while running on the treadmill and quickly started cracking up because of her clear envy for unambiguous black women. Block that channel and finish my run in peace. I'm so envious of black women that I include black women on my channel. Oh yeah, that makes sense because that's what envious people do. And also, if somebody is envious of you, that's actually a flex. Like, I enjoy if somebody expresses envy because I find it hilarious and funny. So wouldn't that be more of a reason to want to watch my channel? If you truly feel like I'm envious, wouldn't you want to watch my channel so you can laugh at it and stuff like that? So why would you have to block it? Why would you be feeling off if I'm just envious of you? Shouldn't you be like kind of patting yourself on the back like, yeah, this Exoticals United, she's so envious? Because that's what I would be doing. I would be like, oh wow, this girl's very jealous. This is hilarious. This person says, at what point do you critically think about the media that you consume? The title of the channel is literally called Exoticals United, which means they aren't talking about you. Yeah, that's correct. My channel centers the women who have been accused of benefiting from isms, whether you're monoracial or multiracial. What we all have in common as exoticals is we have experienced both blackness as well as quote unquote privilege. So we don't have kind of the underprivileged black experience. We have almost like this dual identity to where, yes, we have experienced maybe some racisms or other isms. On the other side of that, we've also experienced quote unquote privilege, or, you know, we have maybe avoided some of the traumas that are often associated with blackness. So that's truly what the exotical experience is, and that's what my channel is based on. So yeah, I'm not talking about women who can't relate to that. She's absolutely right. She says, this is why I say divestment isn't just about how you look in spaces and the clothes you wear. It's far more mental than that. And it's funny how they are talking shit about a woman who has blackness, whiteness, and Hispanic ancestry, and then they are simultaneously divesting to white spaces and Hispanic spaces, or anything that's non-black. So I find it hilarious how a lot of women in the divestment movement, they think that it's a level up to actually get out of black spaces. But then they don't want to learn from multiracial black women like myself, multicultural black women like myself, because, you know, that's just too much. I'm the wrong messenger, right? And like I said, if there was no gap in content in the unambiguous spaces, then you wouldn't be drawn to my channel in the first place, right? Because the black empowerment spaces, they would be empowering you. They would be empowering you so much. All their content would be so incredible. You'd have no need for this YouTube channel. You'd have no need for any of the spaces over here, right? Because all of your leaders, all of the black women divestment channels, they would cover all of the bases that they need to cover, right? This person says, any channel called Exoticals United shows you where they stand. Brain-dead light-skins and biracial / mixed-race women who are angry at black women for finally holding the community accountable for their pedestalization of anything lighter than a paper bag and decades-long terror campaign against black women and girls via colorism, texturism, and featureism. So, holding the community accountable, but somebody just said that mixed women are not black women. So what community? What community are you talking about? We wouldn't be a part of that community, right? She said, YouTube recommended one of EU's videos to me once. How would you even know that my nickname is EU if you've never watched my content or clicked on it? Exotical tax! She says, YouTube recommended one of EU's videos to me once. I immediately clicked do not recommend channel and kept it moving. If it doesn't serve you, don't give it time. As someone said above, attention is literally currency to these content creators. So the fact that you called me by my channel nickname, EU, or now people are saying Exotica, that's a cute name, Exotica. So that shows that not only have you watched multiple pieces of content here, but now you're telling somebody not to give me attention while simultaneously typing a 3-paragraph comment about my channel. This girl says, yeah, I don't watch that channel. Chrissy for me only, please. Someone says, I feel like there are a lot of women in this sub who engage in really remedial things and do really stupid self-sabotaging shit, contrary to what divestment is, like subscribing to and watching content by a channel named Exoticals United, and then running over here to wallow in self-pity and fish for sympathy and advice when they get egg on their face. Yeah, it's funny because when I did another Comment Foolery Exposed video, a black woman had a biracial therapist tell her, hey, if you don't like biracial content or you don't like mixed race people, don't watch them. Don't listen to their music, don't watch their YouTube channels. And then the woman said that she continued to watch channels where it featured mixed race women. And she knew that she had an unhealthy mentality against mixed race people. And so the therapist actually told her that that was a form of self-harm. So the only people that I've noticed who don't like this channel are people who hate mixed race women. You hate light-skinned black women. You hate anybody that does not have the quote-unquote unambiguous experience, whatever that means to you. And that's really what it is. And if you dislike an entire group of people, then yeah, you really should not watch their channels or stay out of their spaces, because if you are watching their channels or staying in their spaces, that means that you actually do like their content. This is why you can't tell me that I hate black women or I hate black spaces or I hate black content. That's false. I still subscribe to Chrissy to this day. I'm still subscribed to Queen Chama. Everybody who's watching this, feel free to go subscribe to any of those women. So you can't tell me that I hate quote unquote blackness or black content or black women. I will be honest, though, I do not think that I subscribe to any black divestment content. I can't think of any that I watch. So, yeah, you may be able to argue that I don't like some of that stuff. This girl says, sometimes she makes good points, and then sometimes it seems like she speaks from a place of hurt. Like maybe she was bullied by a dark-skinned girl and never let it go. And most times she makes good points, but her tone comes across as snarky, so it seems like she comes from a hateful place. I don't know how to feel about it. So you're contradicting yourself every other sentence. You're saying sometimes I make good points, and then I speak from a place of hurt. And then in the next sentence, you say most times I make good points. And then you try to make a caveat by saying my tone is snarky. So Anka bets 3, how about you just go ahead and unsubscribe and hit the do not recommend button so that my channel can be recommended in the algorithms of people who are actual supporters of this community. This girl says, I found her as well and also enjoyed her Pretty Privilege series. I watched Chrissy, but not religiously, so I didn't know what the word exoticals meant. I thought it was just for all black women. However, so the first person says exoticals is no black women at all. Now this person is saying exoticals means any black woman. So never mind the fact that I've got over 600 videos and an entire 4-part series on what an exotical is. It really means anyone who does not have the phenotype that they describe in black communities, where they say you have the dark skin tone with the 4C hair and the broad features. By the way, I didn't come up with that. That was directly from Chrissy. Chrissy's the first person that I ever heard use that phrase, unambiguous black woman. And she said she doesn't want unambiguous black women to be replaced, which I agree with. Unambiguous black women should not be replaced. They should have their own spaces, and they should have exclusivity. They should be able to uplift themselves. And so you guys should actually be happy that I created a space for anyone who does not fit that, phenotype and experience, because I'm actually contributing to you guys being able to have your own safe spaces. So the first complaint was, we're mad that unambiguous black women don't have a space. And then you did have a space because Chrissy made a channel. And now that we've created a space for women who are unambiguous, dark-skinned, fuller featured women. So now that we've created our own space, you're mad because you say that my space excludes you. And it's like, well, you should be happy because you get to watch all the Chrissy videos. And now you're mad that my audience doesn't center the same audience as Chrissy. I shouldn't center the same audience as her. With all due respect, I do not want the same audience. I don't want 200,000 Chrissies following my channel. I really don't. Because my channel is supposed to attract women of a different mindset. So isn't that interesting, Pretty Girl Club? The first complaint was dark-skinned black women, we're being replaced, we're being erased, we don't have our own spaces. So then they create their own spaces, and then we as women agree that they should have their own spaces. So then we get out of their spaces and create our own channels and speak from our story times and stuff, instead of trying to infiltrate their spaces and interrupt their conversations. And now they're mad that we are, quote unquote, excluding them. And I think it's hilarious because if I were to ever say something like, oh, well, Chrissy's making mixed race women look bad, or she's making light-skinned black women look bad, she's making the women who have keen features and dark skin look bad. If I were to say that, then people would say, oh, you should just get out of her space. You should create your own channel, right? And now that we create our own channels, suddenly it's a problem. This person says, she recently got exposed. She uses a voice changer and is actually in her 50s. Look up Lashid for You on YouTube. The live stream is called Too Late for Damage Control, Exoticals. She seems like she made more channels after she got exposed to try to keep her subscribers. Yeah, so apparently I'm 50 years old. Apparently I've been doxxed multiple times. Apparently all of the other channels you see with the word exotical are supposedly me. And it's just me making like 50 other channels to try to like convince people to subscribe to me. So I'm just a master manipulator. I'm the evil exotical. This person says, thanks for posting, OP. Don't feel too down for not immediately recognizing that EU was devaluing you in her content. So by calling us the Pretty Girl Club and sharing story times, because that's what she posted on why she was mad. So by talking about that and talking about jealousy and stuff and talking about our real experiences, that means I'm devaluing black women. So if I name any negative experiences I've had with black women, or if any of you guys name negative experiences, then supposedly that means we are devaluing black women. She says she does it in a subtle, clever way, and she reels you in. Oh, so I'm just this seductive, subtle, clever master manipulator who just reels in tens of thousands of people so I can secretly devalue unambiguous black women. Do you see how much they're actually deifying this space? They literally are looking at me like I'm some sort of master manipulator, evil genius who's so clever and so smart and so subtle and cunning. First of all, I want to say thank you for the compliment, but you're actually giving me way too much credit. She says, it can take some time to go from I'm a pretty girl too to wait a second, only biracials are pretty and I am the one presumably jealous and beneath them? Oh yeah, because my channel is so centered only around biracials. And also, I've noticed that whenever I talk about jealousy on this channel, these women take it as I'm talking about them. But like I said, if you are not jealous, and if you can relate to having people being jealous of you, then you wouldn't even have a problem with that. Because I have purposely gone out of my way to say, not all. I've gone out of my way to say, I'm only speaking from my experiences. I will also say, hey, women of any race can be like this. So my question for this person is, what is the correct way to discuss jealousy without offending unambiguous black women? Because I've tried not naming you guys as being jealous, not saying unambiguous women, and then suddenly I'm minimizing you or I'm excluding you, as the person said just a couple of paragraphs up. And then when I say, hey, it's only this specific one person that was jealous of this one other person, then I'm making all black women look bad. Like when I called out Normani or Kelly Rowland, oh, I'm making all black women look bad. I'm making them all look like they failed. When I never even said, oh, this person is a complete failure. So do you see how a lot of women's own inferiority complexes and insecurities cause them to wrongly interpret anything that is said to them? So honestly, I can see why people don't include women like this in their spaces. And that's why I said, I actually don't want women in my space who have the same mindset as women like Chrissy. I do not want those types of women in my space. Please unsubscribe if you are the type of woman who has a mindset like this. Because if you literally train your brain to fire neurons where it's only focused on negativity. She probably doesn't like me. She's probably a colorist. She probably thinks I'm beneath her. This channel, I just saw a picture of a biracial woman in her images. That means that she thinks biracial women are prettier than unambiguous women. So if you have that sort of mindset where you're constantly spiraling, because that's what it's called spiraling. I don't want people who are spiralers on my channel. I don't want mentally unwell women on my channel. I want women who have a healthy mindset with themselves, or at least they're trying to have a healthy mindset. And also, I don't get this same energy from white women, don't get this same energy from Indian women. I don't get the same energy from East Asian women who follow this channel. Because I never mentioned the thousands of non-black women who follow this channel. I've never seen them complain and say, you think that mixed women are pretty. You never compliment Indian women. You never compliment Hispanic women. And I've made story times. I made a story time called Miss Refrigerator, where I talked about a woman who's Hispanic, and I literally talked about her being shaped like a refrigerator. I didn't see Hispanic women in my comment section. You're making all Hispanic women look bad. You're making it look like we are all shaped like refrigerators. You hate yourself because you hate Hispanic women. Why is it that the only women that I see randomly getting offended by a story time about one person have been unambiguous black women, usually in the divestment movement as well? She says, I do hope you can pick up the covert undercurrent more quickly in the future. So notice how when they tried to call me a colorist, texturist, and featurist, they couldn't find any proof. So then they tried to change it and say, oh, she's a covert colorist, texturist, and featurist. But the thing about that, calling people coverts, covert narcissists, covert colorists, covert racists. So if you think that I, as a multiracial black woman who went to an HBCU and has a black family, if you think that I'm a covert colorist, texturist, and featurist, if you think that black adjacent multiracial women are colorists and featurists, imagine divesting to a white man. So you think that white people are somehow going to be less colorist, texturist, and features. And also I've noticed this black mom, black dad thing. They'll try to say, oh, if she's the daughter of a Karen, she's going to be more racist. Meanwhile, you want to divest to white men, and white men are the sons of Karens. And by the way, statistically speaking, about 75% of married couples have significant conflicts with the in-laws. So imagine having a Karen, quote unquote, as your mother-in-law for the next 80 years. Yet you're concerned and you think that multiracial black women are the most colorist, texturist, and featurist. You're out of your mind. Feisty Loquat 1022. She says, there's also a channel called Black Exoticals that celebrates black women with traditionally non-black features, like blue eyes, naturally thin noses, freckles, etc. It's so disappointing that some people think that beauty starts where unambiguous blackness ends. So this is a psychological jackpot right here. You, Feisty Loquat 1022, said that you think that if you show somebody with blue eyes, that beauty starts where unambiguous blackness ends. You just said that. That came out of your mouth. I have never heard anybody on YouTube actually at all ever say something like that. So the fact that that's even running in your psyche, the fact that you even thought of that, because that's something I never would have thought of, and I'm sure that Black Exoticals, obviously a black woman who is simply highlighting the features that are adjacent to hers, in my opinion, I don't think that she would think that way. But the fact that you thought that way, that shows that you deep down inside have an internalized inferiority complex because you believe that beauty starts where unambiguous blackness ends, not to mention the fact that you're in a divestment subreddit, which is all about getting as close to non-black men as possible, birthing children that are mixed race, pedestalizing white men, calling white men's penises bubblegum peen, and using catchphrases like, once you go Asian, your credit gets to raisin. That's what the divestment movement talks about all the time. And I know that it's not all the divestment movement, but I mean, you're in a subreddit. That means that you're probably a little bit more deeply entrenched into it. She said, I would have loved if the channel owner just hijacked the term exoticals and celebrated unambiguous black beauties. We don't have to be half black or black but with some non-black features to be considered beautiful. But who said you do though? Because that's not something I've ever said. So do you see how you already have negative mindsets about unambiguous blackness in your own mind? Because you're literally putting words in people's mouths that they never even said. And also, why do you want to hijack the term exotical and use it for unambiguous black women if you don't like that term? Or if you guys don't support that term? So do you see what I mean about the internalized anti-blackness? It jumps up every time. But what do you ladies think? Let me know in the comment section and I'll talk to you next time. Stay pretty, ladies.